right, things that keep poor people poor. This is part one. I'm going to talk about food and how there really isn't anybody starving in America. There's just some shitty parents. Like, I got to be real about it. We're going to go over like in the numbers, the mechanics, and all this. And by the way, like and subscribe. I got a family member, and she has a 4-person family, and she spends $500 a month to feed that 4-person family. And how does she do it at that price? Because she knows how to cook. She knows how to see a deal. She looks for ways to save money. Why? Because she saves that money, and that allows her to have flexibility in other places in life. She runs a highly successful business, and this is, being a well put together person. Well, I told her when she was talking about, she was mad that I was going to the food bank because I was like, well, it's just food that people throw away. And you've already paid taxes into the system. Then those systems benefit from that. Look, she's giving me all this moral crap, and I'm like, yeah, in this state, someone who has the same size family you have gets $740 in EBT. And she's like, what? Because she spent $500 a month. So they get $240 more than they need to feed a 4-person family. And she's like, all this time, she's still trying to hold that moral argument with me. I'm like, no, don't try that shit. Numbers wise, you literally give so-called poor people that are obese at the food bank, more money than they need to feed themselves. And I'll come back to why those people, part of the reason they're obese and part of why it is the way it is. So let's go over to the food banks. So farming produces so much food in America that 30 to 40% of it just goes to waste. And some of it, when it goes to waste, is really going to food banks. That's a good thing. It really is. It's like recycling. Instead of just throwing it in a dump, we'll see if we can get some use out of it before it's too past go, So the secret of the grocery stores is this. It is better to have waste than it is to have empty shelves. Because if you can't supply it, this is a country of capitalism, and somebody else will supply it. And they're willing to take that loss to make sure they get all those customers. So what happens is that instead of just taking that as a loss, paying for garbage, which they could claim as a tax deduction, but it's better to actually give it away to a food bank. And why? Because not only is it a tax deduction, probably a better tax deduction than you get for paying for garbage, way better tax deduction, by the way, because think about how much that food cost versus how much it costs to pay for the dumpster. But this is good PR. It's great PR when that grocery store, that business, like for instance, I used to get fried chicken, KFC fried chicken, which made the dankest chicken soup, by the way. It was like the wings and stuff. I used to get whole pizzas that were Pizza Hut or something like that. And the creme de la creme was the Maverick burritos, these huge $5 to $7 burritos. And I get whole bags of them frozen. And so the companies, they donate this food, and generally the food banks have their own personal driver, their own personal truck. And they drive up and pick up all the donations. And so they just get it delivered from the back door to the truck, and then it goes to the food bank. And this is convenient for, unless it's a huge amount of stuff, and we'll get into that when we get into the factories. Unless it's a huge amount of stuff, it's just locally done, it's handled, it's great PR, it works out great for them. And mind you, you paid taxes. When they didn't have to pay for their garbage bill via either taxes or they got a huge tax deduction, you American public paid for that. So on top of whatever groceries you're paying for, you're also paying for this. We go to the factories, and factories, once again, it's better to have a little extra that you're going to throw away, or a lot of extra sometimes, than it is to have empty shelves, because somebody else will make that product and you will be out of business quite quickly. You have to keep the customers happy. And so you have cases where you have an extra harvest and they produce way more than enough. And these days it's a little harder to do that with inflation catching up, and the world needs to adjust to that. So even the cost of labor, whether it's the person in the field or the person in the factory, has gone up vastly. So now there's a little less of this waste to cutting back a little bit, trying to keep things a little bit tighter. But it will go back to normal pretty soon. It will go back to normal as soon as the inflation adjusts. So in this respect, when they have extra food, like whole truckloads and pallet loads of canned goods, dried goods, everything, donate to a food bank, a big regional distribution food bank, and they distribute it with their network throughout the country, throughout the region. And then they write it off as a tax deduction. A huge tax deduction. Just like the farmer writes off his tractor and everything else. You've been paying for this the whole time. And so the question would be, should you feel bad about getting something back if you paid into it? So now we got to come back to Bottom Out Ben and Bottom Out Betty at the food bank, and them being 400 to 500 pounders trying to kill that Mazda. I mean, I'm looking over that thinking that is some form of hell for that poor car. Because the food banks have so much food that even they have to throw it away, which once again, they claim that on their taxes. A lot of them are religious organizations, so it's completely tax deductible. They get all the essential staples they need. I mean, I can tell you this because when I go to these food banks, I get everything I need from the food banks. I might just buy some extras, like some special spices, some cabbage, a few essential vegetables. Maybe I spend $20 a month. I mean, hell, just look outside here. There's fucking wild edibles growing right here, but I wouldn't recommend eating these because it's next to a farmer's field, and God knows what they spray on that shit. So this is where you see the absurdity with the food stamp business. And I understand because all the big companies wanted to get some of these tax dollars back as well, because like Coca-Cola is like, hey, why can't I get that money too? And so the soda companies, like you will see this, where food becomes fashionable. You're not just having coffee in the morning or off-brand energy drink because, people might look at it and go, what the hell is that? What are you, poor? Like they got to have a Monster or a Rockstar. And you're talking a Monster Energy is what? $1 something to $2.50 depending on where you buy it. Okay, that's not food. It's not. And then what they'll do is they'll want Haagen-Dazs ice cream bars and Dino chicken nuggets, all easy cooked stuff, because apparently you have all day to do nothing other than watch TV and get on social media and complain about things. So effectively, they buy convenience crap. And what this used to be really bad before automated checking came along. And there's a recommendation I have, as I said in a video short. You always want to avoid, if possible, the first week and the last week of the month to go to a food bank. Because the first week, there might be some stragglers that still haven't got their EBT. And also, you don't want to go to a grocery store the first or second week either, because that is when these people back in the day, before there was automated checking, they would just grab stuff. They just grab things. They don't know how to do math. They grab things and they put stuff back. So everybody was stuck waiting behind these fat fuckers. And you're an asshole for pointing out this, and you're like, hey man, can you have your shit together before you get here? Who the fuck are you? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I swear to God, man, if some of these people just got embarrassed by having their asses beat with a fucking bamboo pole, like Singapore style, I imagine people would have some shame again. But we're not going to do that, are we? We're not even close to that. So, they go and grab the most convenience crap, and then this money, then instead of your EBT going for food like cheese, noodles, rice, beans, essential meat, like, hey, weird test meat, like, hey, we're going to make this cricket protein, see if you can turn that into spaghetti, like, no, it's the top shelf stuff. They go for everything top shelf. And, because the money they're not spending on food and whatnot in other places, they actually have money for booze and weed. Just being real. But that leads back to the whole question, like, you as a hardworking person, you pay into this system your whole life. And then the moment you want something back, you're somehow a bastard unless you're like 60-something years old. Meanwhile, you have people that are literally becoming obese. They're going to be riding the little rascal. They're going to get their feet cut off if they don't have a stroke or a heart attack in their 50s. These people are literally living off your crap your whole life. And I just look at it and I'm like, should you feel bad about getting something back from the system that takes from you? And takes it for illegitimate reasons. Like, if you want to tell me there's hungry, starving people in America, and when people say there's starving children in America, no, there's shitty parents in America. We have too much food. We have it too good. And it even explains why people stop trying. Especially, like in my case, like when I was a good, hardworking, producing person, I was paying $10,000 to $20,000 in taxes every year. The year that I quit, when I only worked 3 months, I think I got like $4,000 or $5,000 back that year in tax return. So I worked, just 3 months, and I got back an absurd amount of money. The years that I was a good, hardworking tax person, I didn't even get a fucking thank you. I got the attitude of, you don't like this? Well, you need to pay for a better bottle of lube. You know what's going to happen. You're a good, hardworking person. You don't reward people in this country for being decent people. We reward people for sloth, laziness, and stupidity. And like I said earlier, all the businesses benefit from that. And if you think I'm wrong, go do the observations yourself. Go online, look up what you get. Go look at what you can actually feed yourself for if you know how to cook. And then go take a look at how much money you get in EBT. Then go to a food bank and take a look at a bunch of people there. And ask yourself, do these people look like they're starving? So, I don't know. This is Freedom Phil. I'm just giving you the honest to God straight story of what I've observed, what I've seen, and what I know to be true when it comes to quote unquote poor people in America. It's part one. Maybe another time I'll talk about the options a lot of poor people never bother to take, even though they get a way better deal if they just did it. Oh yeah, one quick thing on the poor person food thing. A lot of them just don't know how to shop at discount stores unless the discount store says EBT. I got like $300-400 worth of fucking, I don't know, maybe let's say $200 to $300 worth of value of food by shopping in a discount store in Pocatello, Westwoods. I mean, like ridiculously good prices. And I didn't see a lot of poor people in there. I just saw a handful of people in there that actually knew what a deal was. And why? Because, well, the same poor people don't have to buy. They can buy Doritos. They can buy Oreos. They can buy all brand new stuff on your money. Because they're not going to starve with the food banks being overflowing with food. So, all right, later. Take it easy.